Hello, everyone. Welcome back to India Unveiled. And in this episode, we'll talk about what drove the charismatic cheetah to extinction in India. Was it desertification, as was recently claimed? Research suggests otherwise. These docile cats were hunted and captured indiscriminately in the 1700s and 1800s until one day, not one was left. Let's check the true history of how cheetahs got extinct in India. I hope you like this episode. The story of Indian cheetah is a tale of ancient glory, royal hunts, colonial exploitation, and the consequences of human interference on delicate ecosystems. What was once a symbol of grace and speed in India's rich wildlife heritage met a tragic fate, leading to its eventual extinction in the country. Despite trying to reintroduce cheetahs to their native land, the initiative appears to have been unsuccessful so far.
The environment is very unfit for the survival of cheetahs in today's time. Not only did India kill the native cheetahs, but now they are also bringing cheetahs from other countries but are unable to protect them. If we couldn't save our native cheetahs, then at least we must not try to make cheetahs from other countries on the verge of extinction.
Says Nagarjun, who works at the Wildlife and Rescue Center. A cheetah's roots in India can be traced back to ancient times. Cave paintings dating back to the Neolithic age in Gujarat and Madhya Pradesh make it evident that cheetahs were once found across the country, particularly in central India, where they roamed semi desert areas, scrub jungles, and grasslands. Throughout history, cheetahs had a special place in the hearts of kings and nobles. They were admired for their speed and elegance, making them ideal companions for the nobles during hunts and pastimes. The Mughal rulers, especially Emperor Akbar, were particularly captivated by the cheetah's skills, fostering a close bond between these graceful predators and the ruling elite. Kings and nobles admired these swift creatures and sought to domesticate them for hunting expeditions. Miniature paintings from the Mughal era showcase the splendor of these hunts, revealing the Mughal emperor's fascination with cheetahs and their skill in hunting with them. The charm of cheetah extended beyond the hunt, as they were tamed and domesticated.
So, I was out on leave by myself, chiefly after lads. My native shikari game tracker came into my tent with an auspicious grin just as I was finishing my breakfast and said, Sahib, I think I've got the big line for you at last today. I've marked a big beast under a tree about 4 miles off. What it is, I don't know. I fired. To the shot of sprang 6 cheetahs, beautiful broods, growling and rushing over each other. One evidently severely wounded. I was really so taken back myself. I was stupid for a moment, but before I could determine whether to fire my second barrel or to bolt, the old shikari yelled out, Come quickly for your horse. They are cheetahs. You can spare them. We'll kill them all.
They were known as loyal companions to the royal masters. Unlike other big cats, cheetahs were never known to pose a threat to humans. Colonel E. A. Hari of the 21st Hussars wrote in 1878 in his book Our Horses. The colonel set out for his hunt, and some 30 yards away, he saw what he thought was a single large beast lying fast asleep. Within a century of this book's publication, we had indeed killed them all. The last Asiatic cheetah, the lesser known cousin of its more famous African counterpart, was shot in 1947 by Maharaj Ramanuj Pratap Singh of the little known princely state of Surguja, present day Chhattisgarh. But what really sealed the fate of India's cheetah? At the recent meeting of the Conference of Parties to the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification, UNCCD COP14, a researcher from the Indian delegation pronounced desertification as the primary cause of extinction of the cheetah, and also the still extant great Indian bustard in India. This generated great debate and critique, but also for many people a realization that cheetahs indeed no longer existed in the country. In many Indian languages, the word cheetah is still used to refer the leopard and is therefore confused with the rose-headed cat. So, was desertification really the cause? Not exactly. What we know is this. Two idiosyncratic traits of the animal undeniably led to its end. One, the cat was very easy to tame. It was often trained to race down and hunt animals, almost like a hound, a sport called coursing, and so were caught in the large numbers for use in such hunts. Second, cheetahs were nearly impossible to breed in captivity. Breeding captive cheetahs was such an incredible rarity that in 1613, Emperor Jahangir formally recorded the first and only instance up to the 20th century of a cheetah bred in captivity anywhere in the world in the book Tuzo-ki Jahangiri. Smaller than the tiger but larger than a wolf, it defied easy categorization. Some considered it a half cat, half dog, a link between the feline and canine worlds, while a 13th century Persian text outlining the wonders of creation claimed it was one of these, born of a lion and a leopard. Indian falconers classified it as a bird of prey, for it leaped so high that it seemed to soar through the sky. Unlike the leopard that slunk through the dark of the night, it conducts its business in broad daylight. Yet, it is often mistaken for the leopard. But once you note the difference between the cheetah and the leopard, you can never confuse the two. In spite of the old adage about the leopard and its spots, the leopard's coat is in fact marked by rosettes, whereas it is the cheetah that is covered with the perfect spots. And its long history of being trained by humans suggests that it can very well change its spots. Taller and lithe in comparison to a leopard, the cheetah is the fastest land mammal on earth, but like a short distance runner, it tires as fast as it sprints. The characteristic that sets it apart from the leopard at once are the two black streaks that run across the both sides of its face from its eyes to its mouth, like perpetual streams of tears, as though the cheetah was born rueing its fate in the Anthropocene. The dramatic life of cheetah in India. Divya Bhanu Singh's The Story of India's Cheetahs is full of such insights and fires the imagination. At a time when we are reminded of extinction of the Asiatic cheetah in India, and the project is underway to resurrect its presence in some form or the other on the subcontinent through the African variant. Divya Bhanu Singh has written a book that is at once authoritative and attractive. After he accidentally became an expert on the cheetah, as he self-effacingly explains in the book, he dedicated himself to earning his reputation and wrote his first monograph on the subject. Two rock paintings probably depicting it, one comprising a mother and her cub as a creature with the concave back recalling its real-life hunched profile, dated to 2500 to 2000 BC from Madhya Pradesh, suggest its early presence on the subcontinent. On the other hand, it is missing from the terracotta seals of Bronze Age Harappan or Indus Valley civilization, famous for their representations of range of animals that made an impression on these early Indians. The cheetah also features in the early European exoticization of India. A silver plate produced by a Greek metal worker unearthed from the Byzantine settlement in Turkey, dated to 6th-7th century, depicts the personification of India as a dark woman wearing a patterned toga and open saddle sitting on a throne made of ivory tusks exuding power. She is surrounded by animals that include a parakeet, a pair of langurs, a tiger, and a cheetah. The inclusion of an African guinea fowl indicates that Orientalization began early with all of the East, including North Africa, collated into one distant and mysterious land. The langurs were collared while the two big cats are on the leashes held by their handlers, alluding to the ancient trade in exotic animals between India and Rome. Nonetheless, the role of the cheetah in Indian country culture remained marginal until about the 12th century, but when it was brought into the mainstream of hunting for the purpose of deer coursing, with the blackbucks being its main prey. The cheetah continued its rise as a hunting animal with that of Turk and Afghan rulers of India. Firoz Shah, the Tughlaq Sultan of Delhi, was devoted to the hunt and amassed beasts and birds of prey. The former including cheetahs, caracals, and hounds, not to mention lions. Meanwhile, a hunting manual from the court of Qutb Shah rulers of the Deccan advocated that men emulate the best traits of the cheetah, which included knowing when to strike and equally when to withdraw, as well as self-respect, independence, and dignity. As with many aspects of the history of North India, the one pertaining to the hunt also came to a head with the formation of the early modern empire of the Mughals. The Emperor Akbar was known to have about 1,000 cheetahs at a time and collected some 9,000 over the course of his reign spanning half a century. The book reproduces many, if not most, of the Mughal paintings that display the cheetah. Foremost among the images are the ones from the Akbarnama, or the history of the reign of Akbar by Abul Fazl, featuring the eponymous emperor, who was often portrayed taming the wildest of beasts in a show of both his physical bravado and miraculous nature. The cheetah was no exception, as Akbar is depicted capturing the creatures, coursing with or hunting alongside them. Abul Fazl credits him with devising the successful method of capturing cheetahs, as the fawning chronicler does all the achievements of the Mughal Empire under him. Earlier, cheetahs were captured after they fell into deep pits and they could not spring out of, but often had broken bones to show for it, until Akbar intervened and pioneered shallow pits with trapdoors, an innovation that was so successful that once 6 male cheetahs tumbled into such pit one after the other, in heady pursuit of a female cheetah on heat that had been the first to fall. Akbar was also fond of chasing cheetahs on horseback to tire them out, another of the many methods used to capture cheetahs on the subcontinent. In hindsight, it appears a tragic forerunner of the British propensity for pursuing cheetahs on horseback to spear them. So passionate was Akbar about his favorite cheetahs that when one of them performed a feat during a hunt, the event was immortalized in a painting and the animal was given a jeweled collar, while another cheetah, for reasons unknown, was accorded such honors as being carried on a palanquin to the sound of beating drums. The cheetah also appears in a number of Mughal paintings of Animalia as one of the 4 kinds of big cats, in a particularly poignant image given its subsequent extinction, even if only in the subcontinent. It is one of the animals that makes it onto Noah's Ark. Perhaps the best painting of the cheetah from the Mughal atelier is the earliest known story of a family of cheetahs in the wild in India, as highlighted by Divya Bhanu Singh, fittingly forming the cover of his book. The painting is marked by a sense of idyll as the father relaxes while the mother licks and suckles the cubs bounding about her against a golden sky. Although this painting reflects a Mughal fascination for cheetahs as creatures of the wild, any such concern coexisted with the ever-growing demand for them as hunting animals among the aristocracy, as attested by the image of them collared, tied around the waist with a band or halter, kamarkach, and blindfolded with a hood. In order to keep the Mughals supplied with cheetahs, an elaborate organization developed and specific areas were earmarked for catching the animals from the wild as they really bred in captivity. It is evident that cheetahs are most numerous in the grasslands, scrublands, and semi-arid regions of western India. Thus began the decline of cheetah as it was increasingly deracinated from its natural habitat by humans to hunt for both their sport and livelihood. The earliest reference for their domestication for the sport of coursing is from Manasullas, the 12th century chronicle of the court activities of King Someshwara III of Kalyani. The sport gained popularity across peninsular India during the medieval age. From this era emanate numerous records of retinues of cheetah trained to hunt down blackbucks, India's second fastest mammal, for a legion of nobles and princes. But their inability to breed while in captivity meant that wild cheetahs needed to be constantly trapped from their natural habitats, especially cubs, to keep the sport alive over the centuries. Charles E. Clay, a railway officer, recounts in a 1901 article how he bought a cheetah cub in South Canara in 1896 from a couple of junglewalas, which he then raised for hunting in the Deccan. The cost of a cheetah caught from the wild at the times were anything you can agree upon from 10 rupees up, but rose steadily with the degree of training it subsequently received. The price of a well-broken, trained hunting cheetah is from 150 to 250 rupees, wrote Major Henry Shakespeare, late commandant of Nagpur Irregular Force and a hunter in the 1840s. Such was the scale of cheetahs being taken out from the wild that Emperor Akbar is said to have acquired a staggering 9,000 cheetahs for his royal court during his 49-year reign in 16th century. Eventually, somewhere around the 18th century, the constant removal of cheetahs from the wild, especially cubs, reached a tipping point. And so, while their prey base and habitats survived till much later, the cheetahs were already very scarce by the time the British consolidated their hold over India and started recording the occurrence of the cheetahs. Cruelty abound. Nonetheless, accounts of cruelty towards the cheetah abound. In yet another example, one of the methods of capturing cheetahs for training was spying on young mothers and carrying off their litters while they were out hunting for their young. This indigenous history is outshone only by the colonial one, as the British ensured that the cheetah went from being a hunting animal to a hunted. Speaking of cheetahs' mothers, this one example of British sportsman setting his dogs on one along with her cubs reflects the addictive thrill of blood sport to practitioners, becoming that much more vicious in the colonial context, when the annihilation of the fiercest of animals symbolized the conquest of the wildest of places. It was a pretty sight, and I would have let them off scot-free, but that these animals are comparatively rare in the central provinces, and the few there are seldom seen on account of the heaviness of the jungle. To the reader in cold blood, this may seem to have been unnecessary slaughter, but when once on the spot among them, the sport was wildly exciting and our blood was up. For each animal that was run into put up a strong fight before it was killed. This was the statement of a guy watching this fight. Colonial rule and the bounty on cheetahs. As time marched on, however, the bond between cheetahs and nobility began to fade. The fortunes of cheetahs took a dark turn during British colonial rule. The hunting cheetah is easily tamed, about 6 months being required to reduce him to a complete state of obedience and to complete his training. Many of these animals, when tamed, are as gentle and docile as a dog, delighting in being petted and quite good-tempered even with strangers, purring and rubbing themselves against their friends, as cats do. They are usually kept, when tame, on a charpai, a native bedstead, attached by a chain to the wall, and are not shut up in a cage. The colonizers viewed cheetahs as a threat to their livestock and game species and placed bounties on their heads. During colonial time, the administration actively hunted cheetahs and gave rewards to people who captured or killed them. This hunting, along with the loss of their homes due to human settlements and cutting down forests, caused their numbers to decrease rapidly.
We haven't learned anything from the loss of cheetahs. Nowadays, in the name of protection and conservation, we keep animals in enclosed places like zoos, parks, and sanctuaries. However, they truly need their natural homes. We must stop destroying forests and set them all free. Only then can every animal have a chance to survive.
The last sighting. In the 19th century, the population of cheetahs experienced a steep decline. The population went down from 10,000 to just a few hundred. The British colonial administration's practice of rewarding people for killing cheetahs between 1870 to 1925 was a major contributor. On average, 1.2 cheetahs were killed each year. By the middle of the 20th century, cheetahs were on the verge of extinction. In 1947, the last known Asiatic cheetah met its tragic end at the hands of Maharaja Ramanuj Pratap Singh of Surguja, Chhattisgarh. With the death of the last cheetah, the once thriving population was reduced to zero. It was the time when the species were officially declared extinct. The tragic event went largely unnoticed, and no legal consequences were taken for the one responsible for their extinction. There was no justice for these majestic creatures whose numbers were already dwindling due to a long history of exploitation and neglect. Another factor which worked against the animal was its docile nature. The big cat was so benign, so gentle, that it has been linked to a dog. It never evoked the fear that tigers, lions, and leopards did. The extinction of the cheetah is a harsh reality of how humans have lost their connection with nature. As societies moved towards progress and development, we started viewing the natural world as a resource to be exploited. According to the International Union for Conservation of Nature, IUCN, about 25% of all mammal species are currently at a risk of extinction. This is largely due to human activities. The never-ending desire for power, land, and resources has led us to carry destruction wherever we go. Despite global efforts to protect endangered species, human actions often carry more destructive weight than conservation endeavors. Chandrababu Naidu, a forest guard working in Bannerghatta National Park, expresses reconnecting with nature. The well-being of humans is closely connected to the health of the planet and all its living creatures. There is a need to understand and appreciate the delicate balance of life on Earth. This involves safeguarding wildlife habitats, adopting sustainable practices, and fostering empathy for all living beings that share this world with us. Venkatesh, an activist working at the Foundation of Ecology and Education Department, Trust, asserts that the extinction of cheetahs can be partly attributed to hunting, but global warming and deforestation are now causing other animals to face the risk of extinction. Take, for instance, sparrows. The numbers are also declining rapidly. The extinction of cheetahs is a tragedy, but not the end of the story. The laws, conservation methods, and relocation of cheetahs from Namibia and South Africa brings hope. But let's see what the result is. By working together, the balance can be restored and the magnificent wonders that continue to grace our world can be protected. So this was about how we lost cheetahs from our country. Actually, we only did it. Yes, we are responsible for the extinction of cheetahs, and many other animals got extinct from India and from every part of the world. We, humans. Have you ever wondered? Every animal out there in the wild believes in coexistence. They never take charge of place, habitat, and anything else. If an animal lives in jungle, they allow every animal out there to live in the jungle. But we humans, we are destroying everything we got. Using resources mindfully, coexisting with other creatures in the world is very important to maintain the balance of this planet. Do the lives of other creatures in this world are just meant for your entertainment and to make you feel good? We have to take charge of our planet if we want our next generation to live freely and happily. So this is it. You were listening to India Unveiled, and I hope India Unveiled will not come up with any other episode linking to extinction of animals. I hope every creature out there in the world live with harmony and peace. I'll come up with a new episode real soon. Till then, take good care of your health, take charge of your actions and of this planet. Make it a good place. This is Rakesh signing off from India Unveiled. Thank you for listening.